Everybody, this is James.
And Mikey.
And this is the Movie Pals Podcast, secret episode number 3. As promised, everybody, well, outside of the 3 guys, 3 out of 4, I guess, have now done a secret episode. At the end of this one, this is Mikey's. I will have my own or maybe possible multiple ones down the line. But here we go. So we have a secret episode with Mikey where we will be reviewing, as you can tell probably from the title, Taxi Driver from 1976.
People do anything in front of a taxi driver. I mean anything. People too cheap to rent a hotel room.
Oh, driver, hurry up, will you?
People want to embarrass you. It's like you're not even there. It's like, like a taxi driver doesn't even exist. This city here is like an open sewer, It's full of filth and scum.
I think I know what you mean, Travis. But it's not going to be easy.
Them guys get to be a Secret Service man.
What?
I was just curious because I thought maybe I'd make a good one.
So, Taxi Driver, 1976, is sitting at an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. The description is a mentally unstable veteran works as a nighttime taxi driver in New York City, where the perceived decadence and sleaze fuels his urge for violent action. Directed by Martin Scorsese, who directed Goodfellas in 1990, Mean Streets in 1973, and most recently, Killers of the Flower Moon in 2023. This is written by Paul Schrader, who also wrote Affliction in 1997, first performed in 2017, and most recently The Card Counter in 2021. This movie was released on February 8th, 1976, on a budget of $1.9 million, and it had a box office return of $28.6 million. This stars Robert De Niro as Travis Bickle, Jodie Foster as Iris Stensma, Sybil Shepherd as Betsy, Harvey Keitel as Matthew Sport Higgins, Albert Brooks as Tom, Leonard Harris as Senator Charles Palantine, and Peter Boyle as Wizard. So jumping into this, Mikey, just you and I. Once again, these secret ones, we do go over spoilers, I would say. So this movie is, it's up there at this point, right? What is this? Almost 50 years old coming up. So
it's an old one.
Not quite, like 48-year anniversary right now. But with that being said, I know you haven't, you talked to me about it before that you haven't seen a lot of older films, like before the 80s, I guess, or even in the 80s is kind of mixed in.
Yeah, anything 80s and before is pretty much, unless it's horror or fantasy, I really haven't watched it.
I got you. Is there any reason on that exactly, or is it just because it never interested you, or you never just, parents weren't like, hey, here's just like Gone with the Wind?
My parents are not really like super movie buffs.
Mm-hmm.
They watch movies, obviously, but they really kind of, at least nowadays, they really watch movies that I tell them to watch. They just kind of trust me. I know what they like.
Oh, and
I provide them, but they never really kind of like were ones like wanting to go to the movie theaters or, making that decision on what to watch. They just kind of watch it for fun every now and then.
Yeah.
For me, most of my life or my younger life, it was video games. I was like into like the WoW scene, and I just didn't watch movies that much at all. So when that kind of faded off, I started watching a lot more movies, and I just really kind of started watching the new stuff. I never really went back and watched some of the old stuff.
Well, that's good. And I think for me personally, it's because I watched a lot of older films because my dad would always tell us about stuff he saw as a kid. I have an older dad, and so that's why certain times, like I saw like Ben-Hur and Lawrence of Arabia, like way when I was young, and I don't think I thought maybe it was normal. Now that I think about it, I'm like, maybe most people didn't watch those. And then also, obviously, with the film studies degree, like we watched a lot of older films. And I think also when I was looking through trying to watch older films, eventually when references were made, I would always go back. And there's certain eras that I obviously have seen more during. Like the 70s, I'm pretty well versed in a lot of 70s films. So, but some older ones, I'd say anything from like the 30s, 40s, 50s. Sometimes it mixes a little bit for me. So, with that being said, though, with Taxi Driver, you've never seen this before, right? This is your first time watch?
That is correct. I've never seen this movie. I know you guys referenced it a couple times earlier this year. I don't remember what podcast it was on, but you guys mentioned it on podcast. I said I didn't see it. And it just was released in, I think it was July in 4K. So I
individually released. It wasn't like a Columbia Classics collection, and it was really sought after because that collection is really hard to find, and it's out of print. And it was like the only way they had it on disc. Like that's the only way. So
So I've been putting together a collection of movies for next year, about 50 films or so that I want to watch. That's in this older range. This one just happened to be more recent, so I figured it'd be a nice watch and something we could
nice.
talk about.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, good movie to pick here. So the way we'll go through it here is we'll kind of go through our main storyline and touch on any kind of, I would say, like any discussion points we want to talk about along the way. So the movie does start out. Let's start out with Robert De Niro's character, Travis. He is obviously, I don't know, as you can probably tell, not all there. He is the narrator of the story, so we're kind of going through his I guess his mood swings and his view on life, how scummy New York is. He sees all this trash, and it's something where I think they do a really good job with the city as itself. It is basically, like you had talked about in the discussion point, like its own character. The city, yeah. And I actually really love that a lot of this movie takes place at nighttime, actually, and it's just kind of like, what do these people on like these random graveyard shifts go through? And he becomes a taxi driver, but then you can tell that like these long hours and such is just starting to get to him because he's like a Vietnam vet, and it, like you said, this is definitely like of the time, and I think that this is something where maybe like he should have definitely seeked out some help like immediately. What did you think of Robert De Niro's character of Travis?
I mean, you kind of mentioned it. He's kind of not all there. I mean, he's got insomnia. I mean, the first 5 minutes of the movie, you learn a lot of information about him, his life, his past, and just the way he's kind of just, hey, I just drive around and ride the subway for hours at the nighttime, so I might as well get paid for this. I mean, that's kind of how he gets this taxi cab job, right?
I think he also gets it too because the guy's like, "Oh, you were in the Marines," and he's like interested. He's like, "So was I." So it's kind of like a veterans helping out each other as well. Even though he looked at his, I mean, once again, they don't look at your mental health when you do this crap. But I mean, he's just kind of a weird cat, really.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned it already as well. Is he doesn't really have anybody to talk to. Like you can tell he's not there, but he's got no one. He is by himself the whole movie for the most part. He is basically the only character in the movie. I mean, there's some side characters, obviously.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's really by himself all the time.
And he has these other drivers and such, but even when he's with them, I feel like he's always really awkward.
Yeah, he's kind of apart with them still. Like, even he's in a group, but he's like kind of on the side of them, right? He's kind of zoning out half the time. He's talking to him. He's just different. And you can tell even in the parts where he's solo, he's like watching TV or whatever. He's always thinking like, it's attacking me, basically. Like the world is attacking him.
Yeah. He's like, the world's out to get him. And it's like only he can realize the scum that's wandering the streets of New York, I guess, because of what he's seen and what he thinks. And obviously he's got some, there's, like I said, there's a lot going on here. So one of the biggest things I think here is that he has like an internal dialogue right throughout the film. He writes in this journal that he has, and he's basically talking about how like someone needs to clean it up, right? So he's hinting at like, because eventually throughout the film he becomes like, I mean, it's just really one scene, like two scenes maybe, where he becomes like a vigilante and he takes it into his own hands because he thinks he's doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that like they do try to touch on the basis that like he's possibly like an anti-hero because theoretically he's trying to get rid of like bad people, right? The main focus especially is when we'll talk about it in a little bit, but he meets a young prostitute and then he wants to like free her and get her out of this life. And there's like he's basically taking down pimps and stuff, and it's kind of weird. He's obviously very flawed, like I said. So, but it kind of draws you to it because for me personally, at least, I think it's something where he is going down such a crazy path toward violence and like self-appointed justice that you almost want to see how it plays out. Like it's just really over the top, and like
I do think the movie kind of like plays it out over time, though. So like
does.
Scorsese like slowly builds, like he's tolerating it at the beginning of the movie. In the middle of the movie, it's kind of building and building, and he just kind of has a couple of things that go wrong and just like kind of tip him over the edge. And then it goes absolutely crazy after that. Like he's like building things like swing a gun out of his sleeve and shit like that. So, he goes over the edge and it slowly builds. And I just like the way it kind of comes through that way. And he's just not all there. Yeah,
Oh no, I mean, okay, let's talk about how he meets Betsy. So Betsy, first off, Betsy is I guess she's working in like political office for Senator Palantine. He's trying to become president, right?
Is it president? Oh yeah, he's a senator now. He's become president.
He's trying to become president. And it's even weird how he sees her, because Albert Brooks, by the way, Nemo's father, by the way, Tom, is just there, a very young Albert Brooks, and he's just like, who's that guy standing across the street? Like, he just randomly just parked there, and he just stares at her, and I'm like, dude, this is some stalker shit.
It's super awkward. Like, he's just sitting across the street staring at her.
Dude, and then when Tom walks up to be like, hey, man, what's up? You're, like, blocking the road. He just drives off, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. And I would say, like, even the interactions when he talks to her finally to try to, like, ask her on a date or just help out with the quote-unquote campaign, right? It's just awkward the whole time. You could tell that maybe she thinks he's, like, handsome or something, but even then, I think she thinks, or maybe she thinks because he's so quirky and weird that, like, oh, maybe this could be something.
Well, she kind of talks about it a little bit, how he just seems different than the other people that she's been around. So I think she's just intrigued by him. But he is super awkward. He pops in, and like the guy, I mean, he even says he doesn't like the guy later on. But like,
but it's also such a like, it's weird, man.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, I don't want to volunteer for you. I want to volunteer for her. And they're like, with the same company. The whole interaction is very awkward. Even the 2 dates they're on, they go on, the both of them are very strange, very just like awkward conversations. I mean,
it just shows you some of that. I mean, I think he views her as like really pure, right? That's what we're talking about in our notes. And like, she's an idolized version of like escaping the griminess, because like, especially even that office, when you see the Palantine office, in my opinion, it's really clean. It's one of the only locations that looks like normal, not like trashed out compared to the rest of the New York. And it's like, okay, maybe this is supposed to be like a sign that like, this is the clean, like this is the future. We're going to clean up the city and the world and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, he's weird. Their first date is somewhat normal, I would say. Right.
A little awkwardness, but nothing out of the ordinary.
It's kind of like those first date hijinks, I think. But their second date is absolutely insane.
He starts off nice. He doesn't end off very nice.
And then Travis takes her to basically a porn theater. And this really shows you, though, that he has no idea what normal is, because he's like, I come here all the time. I just thought you like movies. And it's like, dude, what the fuck, man?
I mean, she even like doesn't want to even go in, and he's like, no, couples always do this. This is what couples do. Like,
yeah, he, once again, I don't know what he's talking about, because they last about a few minutes, and then she just leaves and like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I mean, that's really it between the two of them at that point until the ending sequence. But
something I thought was kind of interesting about Betsy is I've noticed that like most of the bad things that happen are in the nighttime, and everything in the daytime seems to be like the clean version of the city. So Betsy is kind of like just like the human version of that difference. That's probably why he's kind of drawn to her, because the daytime is like, nice and clean, and everything just looks a little different. Yeah, it's bright,
right?
And and that's what he sees in her. He sees that she's a little different. You know, she's bringing something more to the table. It's like not the dirt, grimy, and grittiness that he knows of the city. So I kind of like that aspect. And then, I mean, we just talked about the whole thing on the date. Afterwards, he is absolutely destroyed. But even before that, though, like there's a pause between the coffee and the porno. And in that whole scene, he actually seems pretty happy. Like even at the nighttime, you know, the senator comes in his car. He's like having a big chat with him.
Even then, though, I don't know. It still feels awkward, right?
I mean, it's still awkward, and you can still tell he's out of place. But he seems like he's on the, you know, at least on the right track, right?
Nero has that good he does a really good like almost like a Two-Face kind of thing where like he seems like he's fine, but man, at any given moment, I was like, this guy could just shoot this place up at any given moment. I don't know. I got that vibe the entire time. Like he's a guy like you. He's a guy, if you were at work, you would just stop by and make sure you got lunch a few times a week, you know? Just so he remembers you in case he starts shooting the place up. He's like, thanks for the fucking lunch. You're like, get out of here. You're like, thank God. Thanks, Travis.
No, it's true. And it shows like how good he is at this character. I mean, he's
wonderful. Yeah.
He's
a lot of movies, like we talked about, a lot of movies after this are very reminiscent of Taxi Driver, like the new Joker, the 2018 one, right? That's the one.
Yeah, I happened to just watch this movie 2 days before I watched Joker to prep for Joker 2. So
really?
It was like really contrasting. I was like, wow, this is pretty crazy. So
yeah. So there's a lot of that. There's even more movies that kind of connect with like this lonely guy kind of thing. So his mental state worsens. He starts monologuing. He does that God's Lonely Man, where he's like, I have to be the moral cleanser of the city because no one else is going to do it, which is absolutely insane. Which leads him to buying a shit ton of guns off some gun dealer that one of the other taxi drivers is, I guess, they're coworkers. I guess.
Yeah.
Tells him about, because there's a scene earlier on where he asks Travis that, he's like, you don't have a gun? And he's talking about how like you should always protect yourself, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And that's where we get like a monologue scene, right? What did you think of that? That's where, I don't know if you ever knew that's where the Are You Talking to Me is from? If you ever seen that Robert De Niro kind of...
Yeah, I knew it was from this movie. I'd seen that scene before, and I'd seen a couple of scenes here and there that people have been talking about. So it's definitely the Are You Talking to Me is like definitely the one thing
it's like a classic line. He is just getting healthy, supposedly. He is putting his hand over the fire. I don't know if that was real or not, but dude, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Dude, his arm is absolutely ripped, by the way.
Dude, he's got like zero body fat or very crazy. Close to it. I'm like, oh my God, dude. And back in 70s, I'm like, how did he do it?
Not just that, is when that Lonely Man speech is going, like you see a little glimpse of like his life outside of work, and he's fully clothed with his boots on in a cot, just laying, and his pillow is a sleeping bag. And he's just laying there. And it's kind of just eye-opening, like how just out of place, even just sleeping, he is. It's kind of crazy.
No, that's true. That's true. And during this, though, he turns on Valentine, and he's like, he's a hypocrite, right? Like, I have to get rid of him. And there is a scene, though, where he goes to the nearby convenience store. I think probably close to his house or something, and it's about to get robbed. And he basically, that's the first time he kills somebody. At least, I don't know if he obviously probably did it in Vietnam or something, but he takes the guy out, just blasts the dude. And that is such a violent scene, man. The storekeep basically says like, I got your back, and like just starts beating the shit out of the guy because he's kind of still moving.
Yeah, it was nuts. I mean, I expected him to like kind of fight him and everything, but like just a bold face, just shoot the guy right away.
He basically, I think he shoots him in the back, or did he say hey or something? And he turns around.
Hey, turns around and shot. Yeah.
Okay, so then he shoots him, and basically that place is trashed. And then he's like, oh man, I don't like. We find out that Travis doesn't have obviously a license for the gun because he bought him illegally. He goes for what a Magnum, I think.
he's mentioned the
from Dirty
Magnum.
Harry, basically, yeah.
But he buys like, he doesn't just buy like one gun though.
He's like, how much?
He buys like 6 of them. Like he's like, yeah, let me just get all of these guys, and they just toss them in a bag, and he just walks.
I was like, how much money does Travis have, dude?
Well, he doesn't buy anything, right? I mean, he's working. He says something like he works 6 to 7 days a week, and he works 12 to 14 days, right?
Yeah, is obsessed with. No, you're right. You're right. I forgot about that because he and then we've seen his house very much, man. Or his little apartment, like you basically see him going down though, like this descent into madness. Really,
it really stems off of him and Betsy. Like when their breakup happens, he is like crushed. He goes to the office, right, and he's saying, "You're the same as everybody else, and you're all going to go to hell." And then
nowadays that'd be a phone call again too, like, "Hey, this guy's he's threatening us."
Right, and then later on, shortly after that, he sees the senator on TV, and he says something like, everything's going in the right direction. The people are making the right choices, and he sees that.
And that rubs him the wrong way.
Yeah, it just rubs him the wrong way. He's like, okay, well, I can't trust the people here. The one person I thought was good is no longer good. The system is broken. Like this person that's supposed to lead us to there, he can't trust them. And I think that kind of feeds into his idea that he is the one that needs to do what he needs to do to fix it.
Which once again, like you said, like he gets into it. And meanwhile, during this whole thing too, he's actually run into Iris. Iris is the 12-year-old prostitute played by Jodie Foster. And there's several scenes where he kind of runs into her, right? First, he runs into her like almost, does he almost hit her?
The very first time she jumps in his cab and says drive, but he doesn't know what's going on, so he doesn't drive.
Yeah, there you go.
He almost hits her later on, though. Yeah.
Yes. Then he almost hits her later on, and then he notices it's her crossing, and then he follows her and then he talks to him, and then talks to their pimp, and then he just has a moment with her in the room where he's just trying to get to know her. It's really weird, man. I'm not gonna lie.
He has dinner with her too, or lunch or something. But yeah, it's really awkward all the way through that whole interaction. The $20 bill was kind of interesting too, because it's kind of like haunting him that he didn't do something at that point, right?
He doesn't spend it.
He doesn't use it at all, and then he ends up.
He sees it as like dirty money, so he's like, I'm not going to use this shit.
Yeah, he ends up paying the person at the building where he meets her again. Yep. He ends up using his own money.
Basically gives it back to him to be like.
So it's kind of interesting. Yeah,
I felt like that was like a you guys can take your trash back kind of shit. So
exactly, yeah.
So like he wants to be her savior basically, and he's trying to. And once again, it's because he becomes obsessed with doing things. Like he wants to clean the city, and one of the things is he could save Iris, right? Even though, at times, I'm like, I don't even know she wants to be saved. I mean
she doesn't really. And that's one of the conversations they have. She doesn't even really want to be saved. She's like, I'm cool here. It's like, kind of, right? But he knows it's not true because she got into the cab and said drive, right? So he's kind of like, okay, well, this is
like high off her mind too, maybe. And he's just like, I'm trying to save you.
But I think he sees her as like innocence corrupted. And so he feels like he has to kind of do something about her. And like, even though she doesn't want to be saved, she doesn't know what she wants because she's been corrupted so much.
I mean, and not to mention she's a child, dude. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think Jodie Foster was 14 at the time, I think, when she did this.
Yeah, she was really
like that. So, I mean, it's crazy, like how good she was as well for like the small parts she was in. But like, she seems really adult.
She's not in it as much as you think.
Yeah, she's not in it that much.
I thought she was. It's been a few years since I last saw it, and I was like, oh, I thought she was in it a little more, but it's really like the last half where she kind of pops in.
Yeah, and even then, it's only like one or two scenes. It's really not anything too crazy until the very end.
To the very end, where it gets, oh my God. So before that, though, before we get to that, Travis he gets his iconic look where he looks absolutely insane. He gets a fucking mohawk look. He's wearing that green jacket still. He is just armed to the teeth. And then he basically wants to try to assassinate Palantine, right? Even before that, though, there's a scene where he's talking to like the Secret Service guys, and that is such an awkward scene, man. And you can it's just like, man, this is once again, this is the kind of guy you walk up and you're like, oh, we're gonna need to take this guy in for questioning.
Well, I mean, he almost does that, right? He's like, "What's your address?" Like the Secret Service guy was like, "What's your address?"
He's trying to like trick him into like, give me all your info. But Travis is on top of it. And he just gives him some fake stuff.
But it's still like, why would you even go to the Secret Service guy when you're planning on doing all this stuff? Like, why would you even like put yourself on the radar?
Because he's not normal, Mikey.
Right? Yeah, it's like that's what I'm saying. It's like he's just not there. He just doesn't understand what he's doing.
Yeah, basically, dude. He's just saying shit. It's just hella awkward. He's like, all right, I'd keep an eye out. There's a lot of crazies out there. I'm like, yeah, like you, dude. He's basically scoping it out, I guess, right?
That's exactly what he's doing. But I think, honestly, like I just thought about this is maybe he's thinking all this stuff. He doesn't really know what he's doing because all he really knows is, when he was in the military, right? He only knows violence. He doesn't really know anything else, and he doesn't really understand how the world works because he's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
So he's really just flying by the seat of his pants, right? I mean, he just doesn't know what is going on. He doesn't really know how to do things. He's just figuring it all out on the way.
I could think that, or that's true. I could see that, especially with how twisted his mind has become too. Like anything he does, he probably thinks it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
He tries to kill Palantine though, right? But somebody, what was it again on this one? I'm a little fuzzy on it. I forgot. Did somebody spot him or did somebody else try to shoot him?
Yeah, the Secret Service guy sees him like reach into his jacket.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
what
they like kind of yell at him. So then they start chasing him a little bit, and he kind of loses them.
He just loses them. I'm like, damn, that was it. A little anticlimactic. I was like, what the hell, dude? Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a little too easy, but it's a movie. I'll take it.
Which leads into the final part where he's basically going to rescue Iris, right? So he comes out there. That's just a bloodbath. Straight up bloodbath. It is a shootout. He walks up immediately to Sport, Harvey Keitel's character, and just shoots him like point blank.
Yeah, right in the gut.
Right. I mean, which, by the way, doesn't kill him, by the way.
Right, yeah.
Because
and actually, like, I didn't expect, like, because I hadn't seen it, obviously, but I didn't expect how brutal some of the action would be.
Yeah,
because like the whole movie, it's like there's not that much action in the movie. It's just like
it's not an action film. So
yeah, but when it turns it on, it turns it on. It feels very real.
You're talking about then he goes in and then
he blows his hand off and
the door guy, I think, right?
Yeah.
And then he gets shot in the neck by Sport, who's not dead, who has 2 rounds in him. shoots Travis in the neck, and his neck is just gushing, and then he kills Sport finally, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then he walks into the room, and it's just like, dude, he just massacres the dudes in there.
Yeah.
And then he tries to kill himself, actually.
Yeah, and it doesn't work, right? He like passes out first.
No, it's out. The gun's out.
Right.
It's just clicking. And I was like, oh my God, dude. And so he's sitting there. Iris is just screaming. And I think there's another girl in there, I think, too. But he's sitting there and he's just bleeding out and he's sitting on the thing. And then the police come. Because obviously, I mean, I can only imagine the noise that made, right? Yeah. And they see Travis. That's another iconic shot where he's putting the gun, like the fake handgun, his hands as a gun to his head, just like kill me, or I don't know what it means, really, truthfully. It's
I don't think anybody does, yeah.
It's fucking wild. So
the shot though that goes like above though the scene, like kind of hover
cool
above
shot,
it. That's
right?
a really cool shot. Yeah, it's
really good
cool.
shot. It's almost like a modern day shot. You see that, you're like, oh my God, like, hey, look, Martin Scorsese and his cinematographer, good. And it is just like, I guess the way that I looked at it too, though, is like, it is somewhat ironic that he has to turn to extreme violence to save, quote unquote, save Iris, right? When he's in a way, he's talking about how violence and crime and the filth of the earth walk New York City. And in a way, like, he's part of that, though.
Yeah, he's part of the city there, but I think he justifies it because, he's doing it for a good reason, in his head at least. But yeah, he's part of the problem a little bit as far as like how he's thinking about things.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's one of those, like, during like this time period, social political commentary, this is just Vietnam had ended, there was political disillusion going on. The film's themes do resonate with that in its own, like, kind of how, like, crime rates to political I can't say it, disillusionment reflected what was going on at the time. So I think they do a pretty good job of kind of just showing a mix of all that, especially with the last kind of two big climactic scenes here with the assassination attempt, where basically Travis believed in this political figure before, but now he feels like he's not. He's just saying whatever he wants to say to get elected, so he wants to take him out because he sees him as part of the problem. And then when it comes down to the pimps and prostitutes, they just get to freely roam around while people willingly know they're there. And it's up to him to kill up. I mean, basically destroy this den. Yeah. It's pretty wild, man, to tell you the truth.
What's really wild is like a lot of these things reflect on things that are happening right now. Like, we just had an assassination attempt on a presidential candidate, right?
Yeah.
Mental health awareness is like huge right now.
Oh, yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that were very reminiscent, I guess, of what's happening today, right now.
It's relatable. Would you say that this movie, it might feel dated because of the time period? I think the themes, though, still are resonant with what goes on even today.
But I think you can still take what happens. To me, it didn't feel dated, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I would just say, like, time period wise, like, that's only that for me. Because I still think this is a really good movie, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, even time period wise, I mean, yeah, it's a cab, right? But if you just replace cabs with Uber, you could do the same thing nowadays, right? So there's a lot of like interesting, there's a lot of interesting things that happens, right?
Shoot a modern day taxi driver, like, no, Mikey, no.
No,
Every night in my Uber, I get trash and filth.
I guess the themes itself, like you were saying, I think it carries the movie more so than just the setting. Even though like you were mentioning already, the setting is like very part of the movie, which is kind of weird to say, I guess. But
no, it's not. I mean, a lot of times an environment or the location could be almost like a character.
Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't really seem like it was out of place or old or anything like that to me, at least.
I would say the 4K transfer looks pretty good on this one too, especially on disc.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought it looked really nice.
So the ending, though, then we find out, by the way, Travis doesn't die, supposedly, right? We go and he's held as a hero, which is also kind of ironic, right? The whole, like, he has all these newspaper clippings that show that he saved all these prostitutes at the den and stuff like that, and that, he gets a letter from Iris's parents saying, like, hey, thank you so much. Like, we can't afford to come back. You were in a coma, like, for a while, but we were there to thank you. And really weird. And then then we get like a wait, first off, with that, just though, like, I did like that it was so crazy that, like, it shows you how society will look past as insane of an event to hail someone as a hero, I think, when it was such a crazy violent thing that he had to do. But he's not being charged, obviously. But, like, would they have known that he was also the guy like earlier in the day that tried to assassinate the fucking senator, right?
Well, yeah, I think that's a problem with I mean, I don't want to say a problem, I guess, but that's a mindset that a lot of people have. It's really just the outcome that people look at. It's not really the process that someone takes to get there.
They still are not helping him, right? They're just, if anything, they're almost amping him up now to be like, we like that. Thank you so much. You cleaned up the city, right?
They're almost, justifying his actions, and it just makes, I mean, especially a mentally disturbed person like this, you're actually making things probably worse.
Right? I was going to say the same thing, yeah. Okay, then he gets back to it, right? And then he's like normal looking again. He's back to like his old haircut style. He's talking to his fellow taxi drivers, and then Travis has noticed he has a passenger, and he gets in, and it's Betsy, who hasn't talked to him since their awkward theater. Oh, well, I guess they talked after that, but since that event, though, for the most part, she hasn't really been around. And then he drives her, drops her off, doesn't take any pay for her, he does a little driving. Then he looks in kind of the mirror, like sees something maybe, and then it just continues. Right? They leave it pretty ambiguous. A lot of people have tried to say, like, is it real? Did he die? Did he not die?
Maybe he's just doing better. Right. Maybe it is real, right?
Yeah.
The weird thing.
What did you think?
So, I mean, one thing I noticed is that even before he, goes and sees Betsy in the car, when he's with the group of the other cab drivers, he is now included in the group.
He's like laughing with them. Actually.
He's like in the group. He's still like, treated as one of them instead of being off to the side like we were talking about beforehand. So it's kind of interesting that he is now, kind of part of the team or part of the group. And also throughout that whole conversation, to kill like 6 people, and then that's all. He had to get out of his system, I guess. Yeah. And then the whole time he's talking to Betsy, I feel like his presentation of himself and the conversation he has, he's not going crazy or as crazy.
Awkward, right?
So it feels like a daytime scene, even though it's nighttime. We were talking about the whole day and night thing before, so like now it's like he's normal.
Has he become normal now? Because he's like, Palatine wins. Basically, he's like, I heard Palatine wins, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I guess. And then he's like, oh, and then I think she even tells him like, you look good or something right now.
Yeah, she mentions seeing him in the newspaper and how he looks, and he plays it down. Actually, he doesn't even like feed into it at all. So it's almost like he's a changed person since the whole events. At least that's how they're playing it off. Why though
is my question. Why would he have? Is it just because like he saw what, or is it because he felt like he finally made a difference? Is that why?
Yeah, maybe he feels justified that he actually helped a bunch of people, so it kind of helped his mindset at that particular time. And who knows if he kind of fall off again, or like people said, maybe he's still in a coma and he's just imagining all this stuff. Maybe he's
Scorsese's come forward and said it's real. It's not a.
Oh, okay. Did he? Okay.
Yeah. Because people have asked that question.
No, but it kind of makes sense though when you think about it. In terms of maybe he just needed to get some stuff off his shoulder and get the validation he needed to kind of get in the right mental state.
Possibly.
So.
That's the only thing I can think of, because then maybe, but once again, though, we don't know like a month down the line if this is just because he's fresh out of the hospital and he's got like a new look in life, like he was close to death. Maybe that's just one of those things that gave him that feeling like, oh, this is me now, blah, blah, blah.
He thought he wanted to die, but really getting that close and getting that way and then coming out of it at the other end kind of changes the outlook on how things are. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. I guess you can definitely look at it that way. Anything else you wanted to touch on? I did want to bring up one last thing on my end, Mikey, was the cinematography of the movie. I really like how it's shot.
I just like the score as well. So they have this jazzy saxophone main theme, right? The whole time.
Very New York of the 70s. I know that's probably like a stereotype, but I'm like, that's what New York is.
Yeah, but I thought they used it well because they use the same bit of it multiple times throughout, and it's almost like his
theme, right?
Yeah, it's like his theme song, and it's because it's the same piece of that same score. It's almost like he is trapped, like his emotions, like he's trapped in doing the same thing over and over again.
It's very kind of like a sad one, the sound of it. It just shows you like, oh man, like I'm telling you, it gives you that kind of dark and gloomy New York kind of feel. Is how I looked at it, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the camera work in this movie as well. There's a lot of POV shots where you're getting the voyeuristic kind of view of the city with Travis as well. So it kind of builds how you're seeing things. I already mentioned the floating above scene. I like that. And then the small things they did, like by like pulling him outside of the groups and leaving him a little bit further away than everybody else.
Yeah, that's just good.
It just builds.
Yeah.
He just did a great job. Just everybody did a great job, like building.
Did you like the scene where he drives the dude that's there just to like kill his girlfriend?
Oh yeah, he's talking about like how he's gonna blow her face off, right?
Yeah, that's Martin Scorsese, by the way.
Oh, is it? I didn't even realize that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I know what he looks like now. I just didn't know what he looked like back then.
Martin Scorsese in the back seat, where that's him the whole time. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
Little director cameo, like an Alfred Hitchcock kind of thing. So
it's a good scene though, and because he's kind of confused on what's happening.
That's one of the events that leads him to like people are just evil and corrupt, because he's like, she's up there right now. You know what we're gonna do? I was like, whoa.
Have you ever seen this to someone's face? He's like, yeah, have you ever seen a 44 Magnum like blow someone's face off? I think that's why he mentions the 44 Magnum, right?
Yes, which leads to him asking the guy if he has one, because it all makes sense, right? Like, the guy's like, why you need firepower like that, you know?
Yeah, that's one thing about this movie as a whole. I think every scene fits into like a whole piece, a whole masterpiece of what this movie is. Like, I can't think of one scene that just feels out of place. Everything has a meaning, can like relate to something later on, and everything. Yeah, it's just a really good overall, well-made movie.
This is why this movie is considered, a lot of people, as like one of their top films or one of the Martin Scorsese's best movies. So.
Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it.
I'm glad you liked it.
2 times. Yeah.
Nice. I'm glad you liked it. Any last closing thoughts before we end this one?
If you've never seen it, watch it. And if you listen to this, still watch it. I know we talked about the whole thing, but
I'd assume if you've seen the movie, you'd want to hear this. Like we said, this is more of a casual little conversation. Yeah. Kind of get some thoughts on it. Maybe this gives you, if you've seen it before, maybe this gave you a little reminder of the story, since we did go through I would say most of the major plot points there. Yeah. Get you back on track with hey, maybe I will check it out. It's been a while. And like I said, the 4K copy of it's really good. I think they did a really good job with that. And if you're a 4K collector or a physical media collector, definitely add that one to your collection. That's definitely a movie I think you will not just watch once. So
yeah, neon lights popped. The rain looked really good. Kind of
it's just the HDR with it too, with the night scenes. It works really well. So all right, that is the end of the secret episode, the end of the podcast. Thank you all for listening. Once again, this is James
and Mikey.
Have a great one.